Welcome to the Shilo podcast, where we bring you the real stories of female business owners. My name is Danielle Price and I'm the founder of She Will Shine, a supportive business network for women. It's time to give a voice to women in business and discover their journey.
Hi everyone and welcome to the She Will Shine podcast in ISO land today. And we have the lovely Rosie Shilo with us. How are you, Rosie?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic now that you're with me.
Aww.
But I would love to introduce Rosie to everyone. So Rosie Shilo has created a thriving and ever-growing network for virtual assistants. It's called Virtually Yours and is a network for over 190 Australian virtual assistants founded in 2004. Rosie has mentored many new and experienced VAs in their business and seen them overcome many hurdles to achieve some amazing goals. This inspired her to write Reaching for the Stars and the Outsourcing Secret. And she also has her very own VA podcast, Outsourcing Mysteries Exposed. There you go. And I like to call her the queen of the VAs. Let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
And where did it all begin? Where did your passion for VAs start?
It didn't start as a passion for VAs, that's for sure. It was definitely a little side kind of gig idea thingy. I was working in my early 20s in the disability sector in sort of middle management. So I was coordinating activities with people with disabilities and the frail aged and whatnot. And I had a lot of work on computers. I was natural at, resolving issues on computers and stuff like that. And I was a boomerang child, so I'd gone to uni and then and moved out and everything like that. And then I came back home again. I was actually suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. So I moved back in with my dad. And while I was still working, and he was working from home, and he kind of loved that he could tap into this person who could help him with his computer and stuff like that whenever I got home from work. And he was saying so many people would benefit from having someone who could help them out without them having to hire staff. And that was kind of where the first, inkling of an idea came in.
How many years ago do you think this was?
That was 16 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was everything that you kind of found online was American based for VAs. So there was a group, definitely a group here already started, and I started my business, had no idea what I was doing, and just put the feelers out there. I joined my local Rotary Club, and you've got to have your own business to be in a Rotary Club. I don't know if that still applies, but it did then, and that was handy for me because I didn't realize that was a requisite. I was going to join anyway just to support projects and be a volunteer. And then I realized that it was actually a really, really great networking space to connect with other business owners. And one of those business owners was the president of the local Chamber of Commerce. And so that's where I got my first job and my first client. And I had them for many years and I learned heaps and heaps working with them. Lots of other little projects here and there. And I ended up sort of specializing in supporting people with allied health type stuff, because that was my background, and not-for-profits and community organizations and things like that, until I got sick of that. And then I started doing website development, and I did that with my husband for about 9 years. And then the last couple of years, I've just focused on the network.
It's really interesting because before you even mentioned the word community, Rosie, just then, I was thinking as soon as you mentioned Rotary, you were looking for community to support you and be around you as you started your business, but also to give back to. And it's funny that these values now are such a strong part of your virtual assistant community.
Yeah. It's funny when you look at the patterns of the way that you naturally kind of work and evolve, there's always going to be patterns. And it's really useful to be able to actually look back and identify those and embrace them. And it sort of helps you understand yourself and the way that you work. But it's always been about community, always, and supporting others as much as I can. It's been on my, every time, in high school, what are you going to do when you grow up? All that sort of stuff. Everything was helping, others. So in terms of working in a third world country and coordinating, support programs and working in the disability sector and everything like that, it's always been about giving back.
So is that what you did straight out of school?
Yeah. So I straight out, well, had a few crappy reception jobs and admin jobs and things like that. And then because I went to uni, but I had some massive stuff going on at home, and I wasn't able to complete my disability studies at Deakin Uni. So I ended up just getting regular sort of office jobs. And then later on, I went back and got a sport and recreation management diploma, and I focused it on working in recreation in the disability sector. And then I got work straight away from that, working with people with disabilities, and I got some other qualifications around that. And so by the time I was probably 22, I was working in the disability sector. But I was only there for a few years before I became unemployable and decided to run my own business. And I've been unemployable ever since.
Would you ever go back and work for someone else? This is a question that I often think, would I ever do this?
I know, it's so hard to know, because I know that I'm not really good at being told what to do and when. But there's things that I go, I'd love to do that. Like I'd actually love to do landscape gardening. I'd love to do more stuff with animals. I'd love to, do case management for people with disabilities. I'd be happy to do that sort of stuff. But one of the things that encouraged me to leave was the politics and the funding issues and all that sort of rubbish. And so I really, really enjoy not having to deal with that. The thing about working for yourself, the one massive benefit, and I think this is what plays to our personality types, is that when we think of something new, we automatically get permission to do it. And that is something that I really can't see myself giving up, is the permission to try whatever crazy idea comes into my head. If I've got someone squashing that, I think I would go mental. That's what invigorates me. That's what keeps me excited. That's what makes my business fun, is that whether it works or not, I get to try the shit that I want to try.
Yeah. And I think that's a trait that I see a lot in the women within our community, and I'm sure you see the same within your community as well, is we're real doers. Yes. If we have an idea, we get out there and we do it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, that's okay. We'll come up with another one and we'll get out there and do that one. So I think that's a real... one of the traits that I see a real lot in our community, and one that also keeps us going.
Yeah.
Keeps the motivation and the momentum going and ticking the business over.
Yeah, definitely.
But also I wanted to ask you, so you've been in your business for how many years?
16.
16 is a long time.
I know. It's bizarre.
How can that be? You're only 21, Rosie.
I know. I must have started when I was like 3 or something. I did start in my mid-20s, so I had that head start. But it is funny because there have been periods there where I've been ready to sell up. There really have. So every few years I'm like, that's it, I'm done. And then it never happens. So
yeah. And then another idea comes in that you've got to try out. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So what, in those 16 years, what is the biggest challenge you think you faced?
The biggest challenge is probably a combination of imposter syndrome and worrying, about what everyone else is doing, and feeling like, I love what I do, and I know that there are people who love what I do, but same with you, people will come and go in our memberships, and each time someone leaves for totally legitimate reasons of their own, you kind of doubt yourself. And then you hear about other people creating other networks or other training opportunities, and you think theirs is most likely going to be better than mine. And, why am I doing this and all that sort of stuff. So it's that mind talk has been a constant for 16 years. And it makes me, strive to be better, but it also can hold you back. It can be very, very frustrating. So that's something that that's probably been my biggest challenge. And I think it's funny because compared to some people, and it's probably why people like us are running these networks, actually am fairly tough-skinned at times, but also totally not at other times. So I get through it, but not necessarily without scars.
Yeah. There may be tears, and then the next day it's like, okay, I can do it. Put the super cape back on and let's go.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, I think, as well, running a membership community, because it is ongoing. It's not as though you finish a project with a client and then you move on to another client, and that client may return to you in the future for some other work, but it's an ongoing relationship. So data, you'd be the same. I've had women with me for years and years.
Yeah.
And I feel a real obligation to keep serving them to the best of my ability, keep throwing out new ideas and new ways to help them.
Yeah.
And so with that becomes the frustration in that, you know how much work you're putting in, but sometimes it's not evident on the outside.
Yeah, for sure. I've had people on my network for like over 10 years, and those people, they value the community so much. Like the community is the exact right vibe for them. So they're not necessarily in it for the webinars or the job leads or anything else that comes with the benefit. They're there for the community. They give back more than they take, because they remember how much they got from everyone else when they first joined. And those people, they're kind of the foundations of the network. And honestly, it wouldn't exist really in the way that it does without them. Ironically, they stay because of that environment, but they've created that environment. So,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Whereas other people don't necessarily see it that way. I've had people who join up and go, oh, none, I joined for a week or 2 weeks and none of the job leads were for me, so I'm out of here. And it's like, wow, if you got one job lead in 1 year, you would still be making more money than it cost you to join. So, it's just a different mindset. And so those people they're not my ideal client, but at the same time, It's frustrating because you want people to be your ideal client.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing as well, when you're involved in a community, whatever you put in, you get back tenfold. But if you're not putting in, then you won't see those rewards come back to you as well. 16 years in business is a huge amount of time.
Yes.
We've talked about challenges. What are some of the highlights?
I was doing a clean out of my office the other day and I came across this, and people who are listening to the podcast, not watching, won't be able to see it. But what it is a whole bunch of pieces of paper with a little paper clip on it. And it's got just a whole bunch of letters on it from my members that were collated by another member years ago for a Christmas. This was a Christmas gift for me, like years and years ago. And it's just pages and pages of thank yous for everything that I've done on the network for them. I mean, there's people in here that don't like me anymore, which is hilarious. So that's how old it is. But this actually is one of the highlights. And so when I found it the other day in my stuff when I was cleaning up, I was just like, oh God, I'm so glad I found this, because I often forget that I've got stuff like this. And so to have someone who put this together for me as a Christmas gift, along with, I think they gave me a voucher to, what's it called? It's one of those beauty places.
In Doda?
Yes, in Doda.
Yep.
And it was just such a surprise, because I genuinely wasn't expecting any kind of gift. The network was still fairly young at that point. And so that was a massive highlight for me. And then anytime someone is just, whenever I see someone doing something really cool and I know that they're on my network or they've done my training and they're kicking goals, and, I've got some who, oh my God, they're doing amazing things. They're probably making so much more money than I am now. And I'm like, I remember them doing a mentoring session with me when they first started, and now I couldn't mentor them because they're like way above me. And I love that. I absolutely love that. That just, that brings me a lot of joy, and seeing them help each other. So I get evidence of that all the time, and I love it. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. You started your business before you had your children. Yeah. Then your beautiful 2 girls came along. How did that change?
It's funny because after having Ruby, who's now 10, I kind of just, I kept working. We were still doing websites at that point, and Greg and I just had this, we set up a schedule. So we're both working from home. We had this schedule of who was responsible for the child and who wasn't at set times, because otherwise it was just this, just shit fight over, you have her. And we just kept doing the doing, which was just incredible. And then when we had Ella, sort of 4.5 years later, it was completely different. So by then, Greg was working, so both self-employed still, but his work was outside. So he's now personal trainer. And so he's got to go out and do those sessions. Clearly not right now, but going out and doing them. And for the first few months after Ella was born, having, you know, a 4-year-old, and I don't know how people do it with like a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old. I think that's insane. To juggle in those, I just didn't want to work at all. But by then I had some people that were supporting me in my business so they could keep things going. And ever since Ella was born, it's just been this constant juggle of trying to work out when I can work and when I can't. And this year was supposed to be my first year where I had both kids in school. So that was laughed at by the universe and shot down. It's like, no, you don't get to get rid of them that easy. In fact, I might send both of them back home and I might make you teach them as well. So yeah, this year has just been, you know, I did this session a couple of weeks ago where, you know, I'm there to sort of provide some guidance on balance. So I love talking about trying to balance work with your family and with your mental health and all that sort of thing. And I was saying to them, none of the rules that I've ever had previously apply right now. Like, it is just swim or drown. It is so out, like just out of the ordinary. We don't know from week to week what's going on, and finding any kind of routine is super, super hard. And for people like me who I'll work better with a routine, but I resist a routine because I dance to the beat of my own drum. It's this constant battle. It's just, really hard. But I
agree.
Yeah. And my kids know they've always had us working, yet they still interrupt constantly. You know, you think that you can train them, but clearly mine are just as stubborn as I am. And, you know, the only way I'm doing this recording right now is that my husband has taken them literally out of the house to go for a walk with them. Everyone's got masks on, just so that it can be quiet here, because otherwise I would have a child hanging off me, 100% guaranteed. Yeah.
It's really interesting what I'm finding. So I've had both my kids at school. Well, my youngest is in grade 2 this year. And it's taken me a couple of years because I was trying to set boundaries and, you know, make things work, and the balance of this and the balance of that. But now, because I've worked so hard for it, and now it's kind of all thrown up in the air, and it's like, but I worked so hard to make that happen. And we've just got to deal with it. We've just got to get shit done, basically, and sort of work out how we're going to sort of cope day to day, because each day is different.
Yeah, exactly. We've fought for this structure that was working, and it's not now. It cannot work now. Right. So I think everyone needs to just acknowledge that whatever they're achieving this year is amazing. And even if they're going, you know, they're having days that they go forwards, days that they go backwards, days that just don't seem to go anywhere either way, then that's okay.
How have you sort of seen this impact your members and in the way that you support them?
Initially, it was really kind of scary because a lot of my members' clients panicked. So they lost clients, like massive amount of clients straight up, which meant that anything that they could cut their costs with, they did. And so I lost a lot of members when this first hit. A lot have come back since then. And because a lot of them, their clients have kind of worked out what will work and what won't. So in those first few weeks, I was doing a lot of, training sessions and Facebook Lives and things like that, talking to them about working with and communicating with their clients to sort of reduce that freak out phase, and to encourage them to look at what they can do rather than what they can't, and just playing it out as best they could to support each other as best they can. So right now, it's not been you wouldn't notice it so much. It's actually really confusing because half of the members are in lockdown and half aren't. So some of them, when they talk about going to a networking event or going out to lunch and weird things like that, the rest of us are going, what? So at the moment, I think that people are kind of getting used to the idea of it. They've, got funding where they can. So some people, getting JobKeeper, some people are not eligible, but if they were early on in their business, they wouldn't have been making much money anyway. So they would have factored that in. But in terms of the job leads and things like that coming in, they're right back up there again now. So people are looking for VAs. The work is out there, and the panic has kind of sort of subsided, I think, for now.
Did you think when you were younger that you would kind of have this leadership role?
You know what? When I was younger, my vision for my future, I always explain to people what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to say, okay, this community here in Africa, because I was always going to go and work in Africa, needs more toilet paper, and I could make it happen. That's my thing. I want to be able to go, they need this, let's get that shit sorted. That's what I envisaged for myself in whatever capacity was let's get this shit sorted person. So yeah, kind of, but just I wouldn't have imagined this format.
It's funny because when I was a graphic designer before, past life, but so I never thought a leadership role in that industry, but I was like SRC going through like year 11 and 12. So I always was like representing my peers. So it's interesting because at the time I didn't think anything of it, but when you kind of go full circle and you see where you've been and where you are and what you're doing and the character traits and things you've learned along the way, that was kind of where it first formed. So I think it's really interesting to kind of look back and see what were you doing, what clubs were you involved in high school, all that sort of stuff, because I really think, even the first job, what did you do in your first job? What did you learn on your first job? All those things play such a big role later on that it's so easy to discount it as well because it feels like so long ago.
Yeah. And also your proactivity in jobs. I was always the sort that it was just, I remember getting an office manager job purely because of the way that I did this single job of stuffing envelopes for this guy, right? So he's like, can you help stuff these envelopes? He was the dad of a friend of mine from school. And it's just a cashy job. And apparently the way that I did that showed management material. And so I got an office manager job from it. And he just said, you were so just on it. You had your method, you just set it up so that it worked seamlessly and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just stuffing envelopes. But I've seen people do it since then. And yeah, I get now what he means. And so, yeah, just I think that your approach to things in just a consistently trying to make things efficient and work well and getting a kick from that.
Would you do anything differently?
Oh my God.
If you had your time again?
So much. But, I think things were done the way they were done because, that was the idea at the time. Those were the people I was around. That was the budget, all of the things, they happened because they happened. So, if I went back in time, the scenario would still be the same. The budget would be the same. So I'd have to go back with a completely different budget and probably different people around me to then change anything that I've done. But I mean, every mistake I've made, every person that I've pissed off, every friendship I've made, everything that I've done that I'm proud of, they've got me to where I am now. And I've learnt from everything that I've done that is classed as a stuff up, everything I've done that's classed as a win, I've learnt from. And that to me that's just a really good journey. So there's stuff there that kind of makes me sad, but that's the journey.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And along this journey, you mentioned that you worked with your husband.
Yes.
And you no longer work together. Was that a sign of how things went, or was this, a mutual decision?
No, we actually work together really, really well. We've both got opposite personality types, and we could bring out, we could balance each other out very, very well. It got to the point where I was just really sick of what I was doing, and the website stuff was predominantly his focus more than mine. And I really wanted to focus on Virtually Yours. I wanted to build it like I am now, where I completely focus on the network. And so we had a business coach, and they were talking about bigger website jobs and quoting big jobs for corporates and stuff like that. And I just said, you know what? My heart's not in it. I'm just so not interested in selling that. I think I'm out. I think I'm done. Greg could do that without me, and I'd always be there to support him, but I could tell he was out as well. I said, we're both over it. We had an opportunity for him to train and become a personal trainer and take over another person's business. I said, do it. Do it. This is who you are. You are not a sit at the desk website person. Yes, you're good at it, but you are an outdoor person, and this is what you need to run with. And we'll just support you to make that change. And meanwhile, I'll focus on Virtually Yours because that is my passion. and it worked out really, really well.
What are you most proud of, Rosie, when you look back?
I think just the things that I've done over the years that put me outside my comfort zone. I need to do more of them, but things like this, stepping up and going, I'm going to do podcasts with people. I'm going to be a guest speaker, or I'm going to write the books, and I'm going to rebrand, like invest in myself. All of those little steps along the way. It's each of them is a big call. Do you know what I mean? And you've got to work through it. So I would probably say that, but at the same time, I think I'm so proud of the community that I've built. And I think you'd be the same, where you're just kind of baffled at times that you've managed to bring together such amazing personalities, and that they, sometimes they drive you mental, and they know that, and you know that. But for the most part, you go through that because 99% of the time they are really amazing people doing amazing things, and they've joined your community, and that's such a beautiful thing, and something that I'm very grateful for.
It's really interesting you say that, because obviously we're very similar in what we do, and the community that we've brought together. And I say to my members, and I'm sure you've heard me say this before, we create the community, but it's the people in it that bring it to life.
Oh yeah, 100%. And then they thank us for creating this community. It's like, well, we've created the space, but you filled it with what it is.
That's right.
Like, I can't make it, like, yes, I'm attracting the right people, but you're fueling that by being you and by being in the group. So it is such a team effort. And and I know you get that completely. Yeah. Nobody can ever say, oh, I create this team and it's amazing and blah, 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 blah. I'm lucky that I'm running it and that I've created the space for it, but I can't take all the credit, because the people in it are what can make or break it. They could totally boycott it, and they could make it awful if they wanted to. Yeah. They have that power, and we're lucky that because they respect the space we've created, that's our credit. They respect the space we've created, and then therefore they bring beautiful qualities.
That's right. I'm going to tell you to backtrack, because I don't think you're lucky. I think that you've worked damn hard to be where you are. But it's true. You've created the space, but you've also attracted those personalities to that space.
Yes. Yeah. And thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so moving forward, what can we expect to see from Rosie, Shilo and Virtually Yours?
Well, this year was supposed to be my year.
That's right. What are we now? 2020. 2021 is the year for everybody.
I don't want to jinx it, because this was like, oh yeah, the kids are back at school. I'm going to just get hell for leather. I'm going to show up, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to drive around crazy. I'm going to be so out there, and I'm going to, like, my big thing was I was going to show up. And now it's like, show up where? Even online, I can't show up without something, like a human or a cat hanging off me, like so yeah, next year, in the future, I'm hoping for what should be now.
Yes.
In that, I really want to be doing more, always wanting to do more to advocate for the industry. And I think, I've created a Facebook group for people who outsource, and I haven't had a lot of time to put stuff in it. I really want that to be a vibrant space, to just generate a lot of conversation and a lot of understanding and support through Australian businesses working with each other.
I just wanted to say, because I've known you, how many years have we known each other?
I reckon it's got to be about 5 now, maybe
more.
Well,
She Was Shine is going into its 6th year, and we knew each other before that.
Oh, there you go.
7, maybe about 7, just beyond
awesome.
that. Yes. But what I find, Rosie, is...
I never age.
You ready? Yeah, that too. but you're really passionate about what you do. But on the inside, there's this soft little Rosie that always loves a hug, which I wish I could do right now.
Yeah.
But you've been such a good friend of mine. Having someone else in the membership space, in the community space, is a godsend, because other people in the industry get you. And so when you don't have an industry, it's also very different to kind of find those other people that get what you're doing within your community. So I know that having you around has been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait for more laughs and more hugs when we can. But thank you so much for joining us today on your couch, on your throne. You've got a lovely red throne there for the people listening. Next time you'll be sitting on the couch that is behind me in my office.
Yeah.
Because we will have to do a part 2 of this interview.
Yes. I would love
next year.
Yeah.
Yes.
The real year. This is the pretend year, the real year. But right back at you. Honestly, having, there's so much that we can't talk to our members about. I mean, we're both very open with our members, but at the same time, having someone else who understands the highs and the lows of running a community, that's a bond we ain't breaking anytime soon, baby, because it is so beautiful. And you're going to make me cry too. So
that's it. I was crying since the start. You know that.
You were.
These lockdown times are emotional for us Melburnians.
They are. Gosh, we're a mess. If it wasn't for Pringles, I don't know where I'd be.
I've got some of them in my pantry. I might go have some of those. Thanks for that, Rosie. But thank you so much for taking the time out, especially now with the kids at home and everything. I know that we're all doing the best we can, and it's been an absolute pleasure to see you on my screen.
You too, honey.
And thank you to everyone for joining us today. We will be back very soon with another beautiful episode of She Will Shine podcast. See you later.
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode of the She Will Shine podcast, we invite you to check out shewillshine.com.au. She Will Shine is the essential support network you need to grow a thriving, meaningful business. We can help you grow your network, connect and develop genuine relationships, be supported and support others in building and growing a successful business on your terms. Say goodbye to working alone and become a member at shewillshine.com.au.